Now, Maggie, as you think about biblical counseling, and you're writing this research paper, thesis, I don't know what you call it, but what do you see are some of the differences between working with women versus men? And I asked this for a friend named Jim Quigley because he's got both programs. CJ just has men. Carry Home is one for women there in North Carolina that Jim supervises. So things that you see, maybe distinctives in counseling women with drunkenness as an issue.
Well, I think men are going to be more outwardly willing to display anger, whereas women are going to internalize it much more. And we might see it as more of a root of bitterness or turned into depression, typically much quieter about expressing it. So I think we're going to see more anxiety. I think that's become more socially acceptable for women than it has for men. And I also think that eating disorders or even an abusive background could be part of the distinctives. I'm sure there are others, but those are the main ones that I've seen.
I struggle with black and whiteness. I looked at dealing with females that are struggling with substance abuse of not being very different than dealing with men. And I'm learning the hard way that I was very wrong with that opinion. In our little program, it's infected the environment way differently than the men's environment. In the men's house, you have a conflict, it's pretty obvious, you deal with it and you move on. And in the girls' house, it kind of starts slowly and just kind of builds up and you start noticing a little bit different here and there, and then giant explosion of emotion and all kinds of stuff that they have been internalizing. And I don't want to sound unfair. In my small experience, the girls have been much more deceptive and manipulative.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Because of the internalization, we don't want you to think badly of us. We're much more likely to be the overt people pleasers that fear man and are going to be secretive about, expressing that. Whereas men may or may not care about that.
Yeah. And I lived in active addiction for a third of my life and know all of the markers of men. It's like, it's very easy to see, on the men's side. Whereas just like Maggie was saying on the women's side, it's not. It's just not. Knowing these giant differences has made me better equipped because I just don't take things right off face value a lot of times with the women. You just got to be patient and kind of learn how to ask questions to dig a little bit more, dig a little bit more, dig a little bit more.
Women in general in counseling are really not as forthright with expressing their issues. I've seen that in marriage counseling. You'll hear the guy just come right out and say what his stuff is. But the woman, you're going to have to be that man of understanding that can draw out the heart and look at their whole life for themes and patterns that may have run throughout their life. Not that it's causative, but how have they responded to certain situations throughout their life? And if part of that response has been not truth telling, then that is an extremely huge hurdle that we have to overcome in any kind of counseling, especially in addiction counseling.
Proverbs 11:12 says, whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. Now that's a good one.
Wow. I just got
Proverbs
rebuked.
Proverbs 14:6, a scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for a man of understanding. The man of understanding will draw out the heart and ask good questions. So I'm hearing you guys say there's a difference between men and women. And I thought our culture said basically everybody's the same. Gender is fluid. We're all on the spectrum, and I'm confused.
No, you're not, Mark. Are you telling the truth right now, Mark?
No, probably.
I think he's opening another can of worms.
No.
Yeah, we're going to get censored for sure on that one, right?
I'm restraining myself over here from commenting. If we were recording, I would say something.
Yeah, this is kind of good having you recorded. It keeps you from blasting me. That's good.
Maggie, she nailed it, and I think the manipulation and I know I'm not totally qualified here because we don't have a women's program, but I do have a wife and daughters.
That's right.
Oh,
And Maggie, when you have a lady who isn't forthright with you, are there things you pick up on that you sense or that you see or that you can read when you're not sure you're getting the whole story, or maybe she's not being as forthright and honest? Are there things that we can pick up on?
Well, I think she'll give us some clues, but they're going to be more related to her emotions, about how she's feeling about certain things. It's a good practice for almost anyone. We can have them do what Jay Adams recommended long ago and fill out the form of developing the problem patterns and cue in, like if they are struggling with anxiety, and have them write down what were the situations that caused them to be anxious, and what happened and what they were thinking and what they wanted during that period of time, and then go back and review and look at them. And maybe there are 2 or 3 things. Maybe they're coming in and they're anxious and they're depressed, and I think you have to narrow down which one of those 3 is the primary issue that you begin with. And of course you do address them all, but you can't eat the elephant all 3 bites at the time. You have to take one at a time to address.
That's right. And that's really helpful.